I'm here today making this video because I want to provide an opportunity for you to hear from somebody who's actually fit and who loves Jesus, how I think through fitness as a part of my walk with Christ. And it's not going to be like some Bible verses that I just quote at you. There's definitely no fitness tips in the Bible. There's definitely no such thing as a Bible diet, Daniel diet. That is all crap. That's why the guy who founded the Daniel diet has to step down from ministry because of preventable health issues. He's overweight. If you just look it up, I'm not going to name him here. But I want to provide you actual truth from a Christian lens, from a man who has some level of victory in this area of life, okay? I am not the most ripped dude out there. And I'm also not perfect in my own health and fitness. There are times where I overeat. There are times where I catch myself eating and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, well, why am I eating this? I'm trying to numb some kind of emotion. I had a hard day. I've been stressed today. And here I am turning to food. That happens, and that still happens sometimes. But I do have victory here. I'm not a slave to gluttony and sloth. I'm not a slave to the overconsumption of food that harms the body. And I've at the very least been consistent enough to have peace in this area of my life. And I think that's ultimately what we all need to go for. So I'm going to scratch any and all Bible verses from this video. I do have a video earlier on my channel where if you really want to get into the scripture, you can look through that. I think I can't even remember what I titled it, but something like Biblical Lessons for Obesity or something like that. In that video, I go through 12 actual scriptures, key scriptures that I do think through and that really changed my perspective on honoring my body. But really, what convicts me the most consistently to stay on track with taking care of my body is God's call on my life. And I think this might explain why some Christian men are just never going to care about their fitness. I actually hold the belief that I know most Christian men are going to die overweight. They're going to die early. I know most Christian men are never going to have victory in this area of life, although I have the vision to change the culture in the Christian world of how we take care of our bodies. And I think there's going to be massive revival and victory in this specific area of life in the Christian world. I think just realistically speaking, most Christian men are never going to care about this. But there are a select few Christian men who recognize that God's call in their life is so large and so big that their bodies need to be honored. Their bodies need to be stewarded well, okay? And for me, this actually happened in somewhat of an ironic way. And how it happened for me was I actually started my fitness coaching company when I was 19, just straight, not out of college, but in the middle of college. And I was training people and telling them to get fit and all this stuff. And I started to encounter some issues because I had people paying me for the services, but they weren't using them. And that might sound like, a lazy man's dream, right? Get paid and, whether the person uses the thing or not. But that wasn't me. I was getting pissed off by it. And also, I knew just that long term, I had to have client adherence so that my business can grow. Because if my clients weren't following through, then I'm not getting results and I'm not able to demonstrate what God's doing in these people's lives. So my clients weren't following through, and I was like, why the heck is this, happening? And of course, I naturally start blaming them, pointing the finger at them, and I'm just like, these people are lazy, blah, 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 all the rest, and I'm not looking at myself. But what I realized was the reason my clients weren't following through or being consistent is because deep down, I really wasn't. And I had the discipline in my training, my physical training, my working out. I loved it. I was passionate about it, and it was enjoyable to me. And also, at the time, I was dealing with some crap, personally, emotionally, that I didn't know how to numb in any other way other than really hard workouts. So going to the gym and training my body, pushing it to the extreme, it was a way for me to kind of numb like my pain, if that makes sense. So that was that. The gym was more of like a medication, which is why I was training 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, more so than a necessity. It wasn't necessary for me to train that frequently. But in this season where I'm training 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, starting to coach people who aren't getting results, I actually myself started to gain weight. I started to gain weight gradually, and I got up to 206 pounds at 5'10", which is in the overweight category, if you don't know that. I know it's lighter than most people think would be considered overweight, but that's just what the medicine says, okay? And I used to argue with like the BMI calculators and stuff like that. And I think that there are definitely cases where in extremely muscled individuals, you need to take into account, obviously, body composition. But for me, although I was deadlifting 600 pounds at the time, I apparently wasn't muscled enough for overweight to not mean anything, because I had a blood test on around this time. And when it came back, I'm right on the line of prediabetes. I'm talking like the line for my fasting glucose was an indistinguishable pixel away from the line that said pre-diabetic. And it might have actually been on it, but it might have been one of those things where I was reading my phone and just like not allowing myself to actually see the reality, if that makes sense. So I'm 206. I end up pre-diabetic while I'm coaching these people in fitness, almost pre-diabetic while I'm coaching these people in fitness. And I had this conviction where I feel like God was like, hey man, I know you want to do big things in these people's lives. I know you want to help them. I know you want to serve them. But I need you to be a credible leader. And if you're not going to be able to lead yourself in this, then I'll just use someone else. And I don't know if that was God playing to my ego a little bit, but that really convicted me. I remember hearing that and just feeling like a stab in the chest, basically. But that is what shifted how I viewed the importance of taking care of my body. And that has been the thing that's consistently energized me on the days I don't feel like it to take care of my body. That is what I credit to being able to lose 32 plus pounds, keep it off for 5+ years sustainably while getting married, moving to Tennessee, all the rest. But it's that call of leadership on my life that reminds me like, hey, this actually matters. Not only do I need you to be around for a long time, but I need you to be credible. Not only do I need you to be credible, but I need you to be a demonstration of the redemption that I've done in your life, because your father and all the rest of your grandparents and uncles all struggle with diabetes. And this is something that your family has thought has been a curse on the family for so many years. And I'm going to show the world something different through the goodness I work out in you. But it was that reminder and that perspective shift of, oh, my fitness isn't just about me. My fitness isn't just even about my physical health. My fitness is about the story that God wants to tell through how I honor my body. That is why this matters. And even if you're not a fitness person per se like me, right? Because you might be thinking, well, Gabe, you had a fitness business. That makes sense. I don't have a fitness business. I do financial planning. How the heck does that make any sense? Remember that physical fitness the goal isn't just the fitness in and of itself. It is the story that the physical fitness tells. So if you're physically fit, people get to see your discipline before your mouth has to say a word. If you're physically fit, people see that you have the fruit of peace and self-control, okay, before you having to say a word. And this happens to be one of the issues that creates so much strife and turmoil and stress and insecurity in people's lives. 75+% of the US population is overweight or obese. And so when people see that you're fit, it's not just that they want to be fit like you, it's that they see that there's a difference in your character, a difference in your heart, a difference in your discipline, and potentially a difference in your relationship with God that creates peace and control in an area where most people lack it. And people will presume, hey, this person's able to control something that I've never had victory over. Maybe there's something they know or they believe that can impact other areas of my life. That is the point. And so not only do I think if you're a leader of any kind, or if you feel like God's calling you to be a leader of some kind, not only do I think, hey, you should be healthy for your people, but remember that your body's telling them a story. That is what completely changed things for me. And my belief is that mission, that call in your life, is something that God is calling you to. That is what energizes me. So I hope this helps. I hope this kind of inspires just some thought process, even if it's, you go back to your prayer, go back to your journal, and you just ask God, like, God, what are you calling me to do? Give me a more clear vision of what you have for me, and allow this vision to energize me to take care of my body. Because I want the blessings of good health, but I also want the consistent energy to steward my body well in the long term. This is like Caleb here. I will throw a Bible verse at you, but this is Caleb in Joshua 14. He says, I'm just as strong now at 85 years old as the day when Moses first set me out. And this context is Joshua is basically saying, or sorry, Caleb is basically saying, Joshua, like, I'm ready to fight war. He actually says specifically in verses following that, just as vigorous to go out to battle now as the day as Moses sent me out. He is like eager to go fight a physical war at 85 years old, presumably in amazing shape, definitely not overweight or dying. But part of the reason why he was so motivated to stay strong into his old age was because he had clarity on what God was calling him to and clarity on the promises that God had for him. So much so that if you go back to Numbers 14, I believe 14 and 15, but definitely in Numbers 14, you see that Caleb is one of the only ones alongside Joshua who basically stands up to all the rest of the Hebrew people and the other 10 spies and says, hey, yeah, even though there are giants, we should still go pursue the promised land because God is with us, he's promised this to us, and we can surely do it. They had clarity of vision, clarity of purpose, clarity of what God was calling them to do. And so, of course, with that clarity and understanding of there is a huge promise that God has in my life, people he wants me to lead, things he wants me to impact, I need to take care of my body so that I'm capable of executing that mission, capable of receiving those incredible promises. Because if Caleb were to get weak, he wouldn't be prepared to do what God's calling him to do. And so that is what I'll share with you. I really, really, again, hope this helps. If you want specific Bible verses, you want to get into that type of subject matter, scroll down or videos, a few videos before this, where I actually bring up some specific scriptural references that did renew my mind and renew the way I think about this. But this is the call on leadership, and what I truly think has been the biggest biblical Christian motivator of me being able to take care of my body. So hope this blesses you. See you on the next one.